Did you know that creating money usually doesn't involve any actual printing machines?
Wait, what? No printers? Then how exactly do governments produce money?
Money today primarily exists as numbers in digital accounts.
Where exactly does it originate?
Governments typically create money in two key ways. One method is known as debt monetization, and the other is called quantitative easing. You probably wonder,
Am I supposed to understand those complicated terms?
absolutely not. Economists love using complex language to seem smart. Let me break it down simply. Debt monetization is basically converting government debt into money.
Sounds strange, doesn't it?
Let's simplify this further with an example. Imagine I'm the government, and I can't stop spending.
Hello, I'm the central bank, and I've got virtually endless funds available.
Hey, central bank, could I borrow some money? My budget is running dry.
Sure, but only if you promise to pay me back with some extra interest.
All right, here's a formal promise. This document says I'll repay you soon.
Perfect.
See how this works. The government creates debt, and the central bank buys that debt with freshly created money.
Wait a minute, let me clarify this. The government needs money for excessive spending, and the central bank creates it?
Exactly.
So how much money does the government actually owe?
Hey, government, what's your current debt?
Around $30 trillion.
Whoa, that's quite a spending issue you have. Indeed,
Do you have a plan to repay all of that?
perhaps,
That doesn't answer my question.
perhaps. Central bank, why do you encourage this government spending?
I'm here to keep the economy expanding continuously.
When the economy grows, it appears as though I'm doing a great job.
Can economic growth continue endlessly?
Not really. Nothing grows indefinitely.
No, that's an illusion of endless growth. The economy seems to grow because you continuously add money. This system is quite complicated. So, to recap, debt monetization allows governments to finance their excessive spending by creating debt which central banks purchase. Now, let's move on to quantitative easing. Despite its complicated name, quantitative easing is merely the central bank buying debt from institutions outside the government.
So the central bank digitally creates money and purchases debt?
Exactly. Let me explain more thoroughly. Here, the central bank still has its digital money creation system, but now more entities are involved. Commercial banks, retail banks, and investment banks.
Do ordinary people use these banks?
Absolutely. Individuals like us, as well as businesses, rely on these institutions. Picture it as a hierarchy. Central banks at the top, regular banks in the middle, and everyday people at the bottom. In a healthy economy, money moves fluidly within this hierarchy. Central banks send money to regular banks. Regular banks lend and borrow among each other. And individuals like us use banks to borrow, save, and invest. Consumers spend money on products and services, and businesses reinvest their profits into banks.
Okay, that's clear. But how does quantitative easing fit into all this?
Economists argue that economic growth happens when money circulates smoothly, but sometimes this flow is disrupted, causing problems. Quantitative easing helps restore circulation,
What causes disruptions?
usually widespread fear. If people become fearful, they reduce borrowing from banks and limit their spending. Companies suffer from reduced sales, potentially leading to bankruptcy. Similarly, banks become cautious about lending to each other, fearing they won't be repaid. Fear slows down the economy, and central banks dislike that scenario. Fear slows, growth accelerates. To fix this slowdown, central banks inject more money into the economy.
How exactly does the central bank inject money?
Two methods are available: reducing interest rates or buying assets.
Which one will you choose?
Interest rates are already extremely low, so that approach hasn't been effective. Our next option is to start purchasing assets. When central banks buy these assets, regular banks gain additional funds, enabling them to lend money to customers at lower rates.
That's right.
We hope injecting fresh money will increase circulation and stimulate economic activity.
If you're digitally creating money to buy assets, why not call it money printing?
Because openly printing money is typically the final measure before economic collapse, and central banks prefer not to admit they're at that stage.